The Quiet Archive, Archive File 001. The street that appeared only at night. Most streets exist whether anyone is looking at them or not. They appear on maps. They receive mail. They accumulate history. This street was different. It appeared only after midnight, and it was never found twice. The first documented report was filed on September 17, 1988. A long-haul truck driver named Martin Hale was traveling through rural Pennsylvania shortly after 2 a.m. The weather was clear. Traffic was non-existent. According to his statement, he missed a turn while following a state highway and entered a residential road he did not recognize. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The street was narrow. Street lamps lined the sidewalks. Small houses sat behind trimmed hedges. Several vehicles were parked along the curb. Everything appeared ordinary, yet Hale would later insist that the silence was what disturbed him. No dogs barked. No televisions could be heard. No voices drifted through open windows. The street felt occupied, but not alive. He continued driving for approximately 2 minutes before reaching a circular cul-de-sac. Unable to proceed, he turned around and returned to the highway. The incident would likely have been forgotten, except for one detail. The following morning, Hale attempted to locate the street again. It was gone. Not hidden, not blocked. Gone. No road matching its description existed anywhere along the route. State maps showed only forest and undeveloped land. The report was dismissed. Then similar accounts began to appear, years apart, states apart, people with no known connection to one another. Yet their descriptions shared an unsettling consistency. The same curved road, the same cul-de-sac, the same row of houses, and one address, house number 14. Witnesses remembered different details, different paint colors, different fences, different architectural styles. Yet all of them insisted they had noticed house number 14. Most could not explain why. They simply remembered it, as though the house had been waiting to be noticed. Over the years, the reports continued. 1989, 1990, 1991. The locations changed. The witnesses changed. The details did not. Investigators eventually collected more than 40 independent statements. The majority came from North America. Several originated in Europe. One report was filed in Australia. The witnesses shared no known connection. Most had never heard of the phenomenon before experiencing it themselves. Yet their descriptions remained remarkably consistent. A curved residential street, approximately 20 houses, street lamps emitting a warm amber glow, a circular cul-de-sac at the far end, and house number 14. Researchers initially assumed confirmation bias. The address had appeared in several early reports. Later witnesses may have been influenced by publicity. The theory collapsed when older statements were recovered. House number 14 had been present from the beginning, even in reports that had never been released publicly. The house became the focus of the investigation. Yet the more researchers studied the reports, the stranger they became. No two witnesses described the house the same way. Some remembered a blue Victorian home with white trim. Others described a modern brick structure. Several recalled a porch. Others insisted there was none. One witness claimed the house stood 2 stories tall. Another insisted it was a bungalow. Every description contradicted the others. Yet every witness remained certain they were describing the same building. No explanation was ever found. In 1997, a school teacher from Ohio submitted one of the most detailed reports on record. Her name was Eleanor Pierce. Unlike most witnesses, Eleanor did not simply drive through the street. She stopped. According to her statement, the neighborhood appeared completely deserted. Lights glowed behind curtains. Televisions flickered inside living rooms. Music drifted faintly from one of the houses. Yet she never saw a single person. The silence felt deliberate, as though the entire street were holding its breath. Eleanor parked her vehicle near house number 14. For several minutes, she remained inside her car, watching, waiting. Nothing happened. Eventually, she exited the vehicle and approached the front window. Inside, she observed what appeared to be an ordinary living room. A sofa, a coffee table, bookshelves, family photographs hanging on the walls. It was the photographs that caught her attention. There were dozens of them, perhaps hundreds. Every image showed people standing in front of house number 14, men, women, children, families, individuals. The photographs appeared to span generations. Some seemed decades old. Others looked recent. At first, Eleanor assumed she was looking at family portraits. Then she noticed something unusual. The people never appeared together. Each photograph contained different individuals, different decades, different clothing, different faces. Yet the location remained unchanged. Always the same house, always the same front porch, always house number 14. Disturbed, Eleanor returned to her vehicle and left the area. When she attempted to relocate the street later that morning, it could not be found. Her report was archived alongside dozens of similar accounts. The significance of the photographs was not recognized until years later. In 2003, researchers conducting a review of witness statements discovered a recurring detail hidden among the records. Several witnesses had independently reported seeing themselves inside house number 14. The claims had been dismissed individually. Taken together, they became difficult to ignore. One witness reported seeing his reflection in a framed photograph hanging near the staircase. Another described recognizing herself in a portrait displayed above the fireplace. Both accounts were considered unreliable. Then investigators revisited Eleanor Pierce's original statement. A handwritten note had been attached to the file years after the incident. The note contained only a single sentence. "I recognized someone in one of the photographs." The handwriting belonged to Eleanor. Researchers contacted her for clarification. The response altered the direction of the investigation entirely. The person she had recognized was herself, not as she appeared in 1997. Older, standing on the porch of house number 14, smiling directly at the camera. Eleanor maintained that the photograph could not have existed at the time of the sighting. Yet she remained certain of what she had seen. The report was never explained, nor would it remain the most disturbing account associated with the street. Among the dozens of reports collected over the years, one account would eventually receive more attention than any other, not because it was the strangest, but because it was the one investigators kept returning to. The witness was a man named Daniel Mercer. His report was filed in October of 1998. Like many others before him, Daniel claimed to have encountered the street shortly after 2 a.m. His description was largely consistent with previous accounts. The amber street lamps, the occupied houses, the unusual silence, and house number 14. At first glance, there was little that distinguished Daniel's report from dozens of others. Then investigators noticed a small detail. Unlike most witnesses, Daniel spent nearly 30 minutes on the street. The majority of encounters lasted only a few minutes. Witnesses typically described a feeling of discomfort before leaving. Daniel remained. According to his statement, he parked near the cul-de-sac and observed the neighborhood from inside his vehicle. Nothing unusual occurred. No figures appeared. No doors opened. No lights switched on or off. Yet Daniel later described the experience as deeply unsettling. When asked why, he provided an answer that appeared repeatedly throughout the archive. He felt watched, not followed, not threatened. Watched, as though the houses were aware of his presence. Daniel struggled to explain the sensation. He repeatedly emphasized that he never actually saw anyone looking at him. The curtains remained closed. The windows remained dark. The street remained empty. Yet the feeling persisted. His report was archived. Months passed, then years. As additional accounts accumulated, investigators began identifying recurring themes among witness statements. One of the most common involved memory. Witnesses frequently reported a sense of familiarity, not with house number 14, not with the street itself, with the experience. Several described the encounter as strangely familiar. One witness claimed she knew where the cul-de-sac would appear before reaching it. Another insisted he recognized the position of the houses despite never having visited the area. A third stated that he knew house number 14 stood halfway down the street before seeing the number on the mailbox. The reports varied. The feeling did not. Many witnesses believed they had been there before. None could explain why. The phenomenon remained unexplained. A separate line of investigation focused on photography. Several witnesses attempted to photograph the street over the years. The results were inconsistent. Some images developed normally, others failed entirely. Street signs appeared blurred. Sections of road vanished from photographs. In several cases, houses visible to the witness did not appear on film. No photograph was considered reliable evidence. The anomaly remained resistant to documentation. The archive might have remained unchanged were it not for an account filed in 2008. The witness was a paramedic named Sarah Whitmore. Returning home after a night shift, Sarah reported entering the street shortly before 3 a.m. Much of her statement mirrored earlier reports. The same houses, the same silence, the same house number 14. Yet Sarah described something no previous witness had mentioned. Music. Faint piano music drifting from somewhere inside the house, not loud enough to identify, not loud enough to follow, just enough to notice. Sarah approached closer than most witnesses, not to the front door, not to the windows, to the mailbox. Inside she observed a stack of envelopes. All appeared recently delivered. All bore the same address, house number 14. None displayed a recipient's name. Each envelope was addressed simply, resident. Sarah later stated that this was the moment she became frightened. Not the music, not the house, the letters, because they looked new, as though they had arrived that very day. She left shortly afterward. Like every witness before her, she was unable to locate the street again. Her report was archived alongside the others. For several years, no major developments occurred. Then investigators decided to revisit the Daniel Mercer file. For several years, no significant developments had occurred. The archive continued to grow. New reports arrived. Old reports were cataloged. The mystery remained unchanged. Then, in 2013, investigators reviewing witness statements noticed an unusual pattern. The reports differed in countless ways. Witnesses disagreed about the appearance of house number 14. They disagreed about the color of the houses, the weather, the sounds, even the layout of the street. Yet one detail appeared repeatedly: the feeling. Many witnesses described a sensation that was difficult to articulate. Not fear, not curiosity, recognition. Several claimed they felt as though they had been expected. Others described the encounter as strangely familiar. One witness wrote, "It felt less like finding a place and more like returning to one." Investigators began revisiting older statements. Most offered little new information. Then they reached the file of Daniel Mercer. Buried near the end of his original report was a sentence that had attracted little attention at the time. It consisted of only 12 words. "The feeling wasn't that I shouldn't be there. The feeling was that I had arrived late." The statement stood out immediately, not because it was unusual, because it appeared to explain dozens of other reports. Researchers decided to contact Mercer for clarification. They were unable to locate him. The address listed on the original report was no longer valid. The telephone number had been disconnected years earlier. Attempts to contact relatives produced little information. Most had not spoken with him in a long time. Eventually, investigators located a former co-worker. According to the co-worker, Daniel had changed gradually after filing the report. He became increasingly withdrawn, obsessive. He spent long periods studying road maps, taking late-night drives, recording routes in notebooks, searching for something he refused to explain. The co-worker believed Daniel was attempting to relocate the street. When asked when he had last seen him, the man could not provide a precise date, only an estimate. Nearly 4 years earlier, no missing person report had ever been filed. People had simply assumed Daniel had moved away. The investigation widened. Former landlords were contacted. Employment records were reviewed. No trace of Mercer could be located. The search eventually led investigators to a storage unit rented under his name. The rental fees had stopped years earlier. The contents were scheduled for disposal. Inside were several cardboard boxes. Most contained ordinary possessions: clothing, books, household items. One box was different. It contained maps, dozens of them, road atlases marked with handwritten notes, highlighted routes, photographs, receipts from gas stations across multiple states. Nearly all of the materials appeared connected to a single objective: finding the street. Investigators spent weeks cataloging the contents. Many of the photographs were unremarkable: roads, intersections, residential neighborhoods. Most contained handwritten notes: wrong street, wrong street, wrong street. The phrase appeared repeatedly. Then they discovered an envelope. Unlike the others, it contained no note, no explanation, only a single photograph. The image showed a residential mailbox illuminated by a street lamp. The photograph itself was grainy. The background was almost entirely obscured by darkness. No houses were visible. No street sign appeared in the frame, only the mailbox. Its number was clearly visible. Nothing had been written on the back. Nothing had been written anywhere. Yet investigators would later note that no additional photographs followed it. No maps, no notes, no receipts, no further attempts. The search simply ended. And so did Daniel Mercer. In the years following Daniel Mercer's disappearance, investigators gradually shifted their attention away from the street itself. The street appeared without warning, disappeared without warning, and resisted every attempt at explanation. The photographs were different. The photographs left traces, descriptions, patterns, details, something that could be studied. Researchers began reviewing every witness account that mentioned the interior of house number 14. The process lasted several years. At first, little emerged. Witnesses disagreed about the appearance of the house, its color, its size, its architecture, yet their descriptions of the photographs remained remarkably consistent. The photographs appeared old. Some looked decades old. Others appeared relatively recent. Many depicted individuals standing on the front porch. Others showed small groups gathered in front of the house. Researchers began attempting identifications. The task proved difficult. Most faces could not be verified. Some photographs were described only briefly, others in great detail. Eventually, however, a pattern emerged. The first confirmed identification came from a report filed in 1994, the second from 2001, then another, and another. Years passed. The list continued to grow. By 2014, investigators had reached a disturbing conclusion. Every positively identified individual shared a single characteristic. Each had previously reported encountering the street. Not residents, not relatives, witnesses. The discovery transformed the investigation. For decades, researchers had assumed the photographs depicted the occupants of house number 14. The evidence suggested otherwise. The photographs appeared to document visitors. The implications were unsettling, but they also explained several long-standing anomalies. Why witnesses occasionally recognized themselves. Why certain photographs appeared older than they should have. Why the same faces appeared repeatedly throughout unrelated accounts. The house was not recording a family. It appeared to be recording encounters. Attention soon turned toward another recurring detail, the mailbox. Sarah Whitmore's report was no longer viewed as an isolated curiosity. Researchers revisited similar accounts. To their surprise, references to letters appeared throughout the archive. Not frequently, but enough. Envelopes, mail, stacks of unopened letters, all addressed to house number 14, and all addressed to the same recipient. Resident, no names, no initials, no family designation, only resident. The significance remained unclear. Then came the final review. In 2014, investigators assembled every available witness sketch of the street, every photograph, every written description, every archived note. Particular attention was given to the street sign positioned near the entrance. Almost every witness remembered it. No witness could accurately describe it. No one could repeat the wording. One witness compared the experience to forgetting a familiar name moments before speaking it aloud. Another compared the experience to trying to remember a dream immediately after waking. A third claimed he remembered every detail of the street except the sign itself, the color, the height, the position, even the scratches in the paint, everything except the words. Photographs failed to capture it properly. Descriptions contradicted one another. For decades, the text remained unknown. Using digital reconstruction techniques, researchers combined dozens of independent witness sketches. The results were imperfect. Many letters remained incomplete. Others were distorted beyond recognition. Yet a portion of the text became legible. For the first time in the history of the investigation, investigators believed they understood what the sign had been saying. The reconstructed phrase read, "returning residents." The meaning of the phrase remains unknown. No explanation has been accepted. Investigators never determined who occupied house number 14. They never determined who took the photographs. They never determined why multiple witnesses appeared in photographs that should not have existed, and they never determined why so many witnesses reported the same feeling. Not fear, not danger, recognition, as though they had been there before. The final entry in the archive was recorded on March 8, 2015. It contains only a single sentence. No further investigation recommended. The file was closed the same day. The street that appeared only at night.